Christian Young, and I'm here with
Melody Young.
What is your date of birth?
January 25th, 1975.
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Savannah until 7th grade, and then we moved to Richmond Hill, Georgia, and I graduated high school from Richmond Hill.
What is your earliest memory, and how has it shaped who you are today?
My earliest memory is actually, I think I was 2 years old, 2 or 3, and I had my tonsils taken out. That's the first thing I can remember as a child. I remember walking into the Telfair Hospital in Savannah to get my tonsils taken out, and I remember the nurse having a doll with her and telling me to come over to her that I could come play with the doll. And so I walked over there thinking I was going to play with the doll, and she got me and put me in the hospital bed, and they had to give me an IV. Of course, I didn't know what it was at the time, and then I started screaming and crying and was scared. That's my very first memory as a child.
Has that shaped you today?
I never thought about it, really, but I am fearful of many things in my life, and it kind of, this, and it kind of makes me wonder if that is part of the reason I'm scared of some things. So I don't know.
Can you tell me any information about your childhood and upbringing?
Yes. Okay, I grew up in Savannah with my mom and dad. They were married until they passed away, and I have an older brother 2 years older than me, and a younger brother 6 years younger than me, and a younger sister 12 years younger than me. So we were varied ages. And I grew up, like I said, in Savannah, in the city. Both sets of my grandparents lived in the same city, and that was wonderful. We went to my Meemaw's every Sunday after church. We were there eating every Sunday after church there with my family, and we would see my Nana and Pop, at least once a week, once every 2 weeks, and we'd go eat dinner at their house and visit at their house. So I had a really wonderful childhood. We were not wealthy by any means, but we were not poor. We were, I would think, just lower middle class. I went to different schools. I think that has shaped who I am today. I went, I think, when I counted back, to 7 different schools, all in Savannah. And so that was weird. And what it was, we lived in Savannah, and the public schools were not very good and not super safe. And so I started out in private school in kindergarten at Savannah Christian. Then 1st grade, I went to Nativity Catholic school, private school. 2nd grade, I went to Calvary day school. 3rd grade, I went to Calvary. 4th grade, I went to a public school on Tybee Elementary. 5th grade, I went back to Calvary for part of the year, and then I went to Hess Elementary School. 6th grade, I went back to Calvary, and 7th grade, I went to Calvary until the last month of school, and that's when my family moved to Richmond Hill, and I went to Richmond Hill from that point until I graduated, which was wonderful to be in one place.
What is one thing that you've learned from each of the most influential people in your life, and that you heard and you still go by today?
Okay. My daddy, even though he wasn't home a whole lot, he was on the railroad a lot. He had a great work ethic. He provided for us. He sacrificed for us his whole life for his children and my mom. And I feel like I got a good work ethic from him, from watching him and sacrificing for your family and putting your family first. Mama took us to church. She served the Lord. She served at church all the time. She taught me about Jesus, and that has shaped my whole life. Once she introduced me to him and I heard about him at church, that was it. And so those were the 2 most influential people in my life.
Who was your mentor growing up, and can you share one story from them?
Somebody like I really looked up to, that would be my Granny Molly. That is my dad's grandma. She was my great grandmother, and she was the most godliest woman I've ever met to this day. She reminded me a lot of grandma, your grandma, just her demeanor, but she was just her presence. She was so filled with the Holy Spirit and just an example. And I remember going. That's what made me fall in love with the country. That's what made me want to raise y'all in the country. And a big part of the reason we moved up here was because I fell in love with the country during that time.
What was your college education and experience like?
Okay, I went to college. I graduated from Richmond Hill High School. I went to college at Armstrong Atlantic State University in Savannah. Back then, when I first started there, it was called Armstrong State College, and then they changed the name, and now it's Georgia Southern. They bought it. But I went there. I lived at home and drove to college, and went there. And that's where I got my bachelor's degree in speech pathology. And then as I worked full time, I went back at night to get my master's degree in speech pathology at the same college.
How did that shape your personal development?
I mean, I became more educated. I met lots of different people, from different areas. I just really fell in love with helping others, specifically with communication disorders. I knew I always wanted to help others, but I didn't really know how until I found that major.
But what technological advancements has most helped you with your career?
Okay. I can remember when cell phones came about. I remember having a bag phone in the car when we first got cell phones. Maybe my second year of teaching speech, getting a computer for my speech room that I could type on, and print things out. So those have definitely shaped, because now, we have computers, laptops, email. I remember when things really changed over to email. Before that, you had a lot more faculty meetings and face-to-face, conversations with your principal or supervisor, whoever, other teachers. So email has really, it's major now.
Can you describe a historical event and that you've witnessed or been through in your lifetime, and how that affected you and others around you?
Yes, 9/11. I will never forget. And I know most people can say this that were living back then. Where I was, it was horrible. I was at the doctor with Lane, your brother, and all of a sudden, the nurse had gone out for something and she didn't come back in. And I was like, where is, we were just sitting in the room. And I got Lane, and I peeked out the door, and everybody was crowded around this little TV in the hall. And so I got Lane and walked out there, and we just couldn't believe it. We just stood there in awe of what we were seeing. And I remember staying there for like over an hour, I was trying to figure out what was going on. And then I went home and turned on the TV and watched it. And then I remember calling your daddy, and they were at work seeing it. And then he eventually came home. And for 3 or 4 days, at least, I can just remember us sitting around the TV watching what is going on, just in disbelief. It was just horrific. I've never seen anything like it. So many people died that day.
And how have you noticed any differences, in the government in the U.S. since then?
Well, I know for a long time people were, obviously mad and angry and upset and sad. And there was, very much a sense of pride for America, for a long time after that. You're not going to mess with us, we're Americans, and just being more vocal about that. A lot of people joined the military because of that. But it seems like that has, eventually over time that fell off, and, you see how the world is today, just so divided. And I feel like the world's so divided, and the U.S. is so divided, that there's people that think we're not the greatest country in the world, and we are. So I still don't think there's any resolution to it all.
If me and you died tomorrow, what piece of advice would you want to leave with the next and younger generation of people?
The number one thing in life is to know Jesus. He's the answer to everything. If I can tell anybody, I'm 51, and throughout my lifetime, I have seen him work and move in so many ways. He is real, and if there's anything I could give anybody is to know Jesus. He is who will help you. He cares about you. He loves you. He sees you. He's with you through every single thing in life.
I chose my mom because she is one of, if not the most influential people in my life. Just the way that she's led me in the right direction, the way that she cares for me and my family. One thing I learned from our conversation, our interview today, is to have God in the center of everything, and He'll always lead you in the right direction. And also to always put others first, and especially your family first. I feel like those are important takeaways from today, and yeah.